All right, everybody. It is another Friday edition of Coffee and Celtics here on Green with Envy, and we've got special guests in the building. Derrick White's dad, Richard White, friend of the podcast. He is back to help us talk about what is going on with the Celtics in their current state. Plus, we're going to have a little bit of positivity on this one here, folks. So we're going to talk about what it's like to be the champion to be the father of an NBA champion in the offseason. We're going to hit all of those stories. We got that and more coming up next. We're live. So if you're joining us here on YouTube or Twitter, get your questions in the chat right now for Richard White. This is Green with Envy. You guys know the deal. Let's lock in. What up, what up, what up? Welcome into another edition of Green with Envy. It is a Friday Coffee and Celtics, which if you were with us last week, you know is now sponsored by Wood Island Media. Wood Island Media, a powerhouse production company for the past decade, specializing in celebrity, branded, and social content, based in Los Angeles, but roots in Boston. Shout out to Wood Island Media. As always, this is your boy Will Weir checking in. How you doing? How you living? Joining me today to bring in our special guest, as always, it's my best friend, co-host, and the coach of our podcast, one and only Greg Manakis. Greg, we ready to get this going here?
I'm ready. And Richard, I wanted to wear something today that maybe you could think about because initially when I had emailed you, we were talking about maybe getting Derrick on the pod and all of us talking about, fatherhood and whatnot. But my fiance actually just got this for me, and it's a really cool idea for a gift. Right? It says Dada on it, but the fabric is actually from his first onesie that he wore and also his hospital blanket. So if Derrick's looking to get Hannah, is his wife's name?
Yes.
Yeah, if he's looking to get her a surprise gift, there's a mama one that you can get done. I can send you the information, but I wanted to rock it. I'm a proud dad. My baby boy James is 6 months old. So I wanted to show this off today because I also got the dad hat. I'm wearing this to work and everything. I'm just loving life.
You didn't make the messaging very subtle, I'll say that. Richard, welcome to the show, man. Happy to have you on. How you been, man? It's been a little bit since we've caught up.
Yeah, been doing well. It's been pretty eventful past year. So it's exciting, and we're back in the middle of the season, so can't really complain.
Yeah, I mean, back in the middle of the season, we are. And I think that's where we want to start today. Let's talk a little bit about the current state of the Celtics, if you will, and then we'll kind of branch out from there. But let's start with your son. Let's start with Derrick here, because right now, Derrick got off to an amazingly hot start over those first 19 games, probably the best basketball we've ever really seen him play. And then right at the end of November, I know he ended up with a foot injury, and since then it's been at least from an offensive shooting point of view, the numbers have tailed off a little bit here in the last month plus or so. And so there's quite a difference between the first 19 and the last 19. So two questions here that I want to get your take on here, Richard. Number one, any lingering issues with that foot that, isn't really just being reported on, that has been something that Derrick's been dealing with? Any updates you can provide for us on that front?
No, I mean, the only thing he's had is he was sick, so he missed the Denver game, which that was kind of a hard thing because that's his one local game, and then other than that, everything's been fine. So I mean, there's nothing behind the scenes going on there.
Good though. I mean, that's great to hear. I know that's one thing. Just like when you hear about a foot injury, because there was an injury reported after the Bulls game. I think it was an NBA Cup game, November 29th. And that was actually like the halfway point. That was game number 19, first 19, second 19. So like the first 19 games, he was shooting well over 40% from three. He actually had 11 out of 19 games in those first 19 where he had 4 or more three-pointers made, which is just an amazing amount. That's like unsustainable to some degree, right? second 19 games, he's shooting 32.9% from three. He's only had 5 games of 4+3. So it's good to hear that there is nothing going on with that foot, because when you hear foot injury, you're always just worried about that. So what do you attribute the downtick in the numbers to? You think it's just a shooting slump? This is, kind of reverting back to numbers kind of finding their level?
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's the ebbs and flows of a season. Um, right now the offense isn't flowing like it did last year. Um, I mean, a lot of the numbers for team wise are down. I mean, usually like last year, if let's say the top 8, if 2 of them were kind of not shooting well, the other 6 were. Now it's like reversed. 2 are shooting well and six aren't shooting well. So, it kind of snowballs and feeds upon itself. I mean, just like last year where everything was going in and they had a lot of excitement and everything, and it just kept snowballing, and they kept, just hammering people. Now the converse is true. It's like, everybody's trying to make the next shot and they're not, and then it just keeps snowballing. So I mean, it happens. Everybody kind of goes through it at one point or another. Like you said, the first 19 games they were 16-3, and then now it's 12-9 or whatever. So I mean, they're still third third best record in the NBA. I mean, all the different goals are still there, maybe with the exception of being the number 1 seed. I mean, making up 6 games against Cleveland could be difficult. They do have 2 games with Cleveland, so you could conceivably win those 2 games and be within 4. But you just kind of have to ride through it. The problem with that is, the external forces start coming in, and everybody has different reasons why this, that, the other thing. You just kind of have to stay the course. Keep going back to the fundamentals. I mean, if they get back to their organic offense, where shots just come up, I think they'll be back. They'll be back good to where everybody expects them to be.
Yeah, and so, like you said, I think that was very well put, and I think part of what you were saying is the cycle that all Celtics fans have been going through here, over the past 19 games, which is really about a month and a half or so of, man, something's not flowing, something feels wrong, and then you remember that you're still the either second or third best team in the league record wise, and and it's funny when you look at a lot of the metrics. For the most part, when you look at the holistic version of them, a lot of them are very similar to last year. Big difference has been the healthy starting 5 of the Celtics. Their net rating collectively is one of the worst in the league, whereas last year it was lapping the field as far as being the best in the league. So I'm curious, Richard, when you look at this team right now, let's take away the shooting slump. We know that that's part of it, right? Like we've seen the numbers. Everybody's 3-point percentage, to your point, is down except for Peyton Pritchard. He's the only guy that's significantly up. Everyone else is typically more volume. And even if it's a slight tick down, it's a little bit of a tick down just all the way across the board. Some of those larger than others. But what do you think jumps out to you as the thing that, and once again, guys, we're in the middle of a long season and it's a culmination of multiple long seasons, which I think is something that even I forget about sometimes. But what do you think is the biggest difference looking at that lineup last year versus this year right now?
It's just the way other teams. I mean, other teams now had a year to kind of prepare for this. I mean, last year it was like no one, they were a new collection of people. Derrick was starting, Drew came in, Porzingis came in. Nobody really knew. It's like a new set, a new team. So whatever things that they were running, there wasn't any tape or film on. This year you've seen other teams they've worked to try to, disrupt the Celtics as best as possible. I mean, you had the Memphis game where they let, they didn't cover Drew. You've got, games now where they're putting bigger wings on Derrick. They're not running as many, a JT and Derrick, just look at things, how things worked last year versus this year. There's a lot of things that they're not doing. So it's that they're not doing it, or other teams are adjusting to make them not do it. So if the Celtics get back to the Celtic way of doing things, they should be okay.
Yeah, and one thing that I've kind of been taking a peek at is just like Missoula's rotations, and Will, feel free to jump in here too. We can just kind of just open this up as a conversation. Is just like Missoula is starting to go a little bit more towards two big lineups. The Cornet Porzingis 2-man pairing actually has pretty good numbers together. And then any combination really of a two big lineup is starting to look a little bit better. And especially, Richard mentioned trying to catch Cleveland. And if that's the team that we have to face in the playoffs, in the Eastern Conference Finals, they're a too big team. You know what I mean? The Milwaukee Bucks, who are playing better basketball, they're a too big team. The only team that's really not, that's one of the elite teams, is the Thunder. Right. So like the Thunder actually go small,
Even
but
Greg,
they don't.
Even the Magic were playing tonight. I mean,
Right.
they've had a lot of injuries, but they always stay big. That's the one. They play tough and big. That's one thing they will always do.
Right. And then Missoula's also not afraid to just like see what's going on at the end of the game, and they trying to give the game what it needs. Like Derrick wasn't in the closing lineup in the last game. So my kind of theory right now on the Celtics is that they're just a little small. And that was always the concern, with the White and Smart backcourt back when Marcus was still on the team, right? It's just like, do we have enough size? Does it make more sense to have Jalen at the 2, Jason at the 3, and take some of that burden off of Tatum, where he has to rebound 12 to 15 times a game, to like really clean up the boards? So I was just kind of wondering what you guys thought about that, whether it makes sense to tinker even more with the starting lineup, with the rotations, considering that starting lineup is a negative 12 net rating so far on the year. Will, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think right now it's, this is where it's tough, right? Because we're in the middle of the season. It's, once again, I feel like I saw a clip from Chris Mannix that really made me check myself, where it's like, this isn't just coming off of a long season. It's coming off a long 6 seasons or 4 seasons, or however you want to look at it, basically since the bubble, with the way that seasons have been compacted and how deep the Celtics have gone with the majority of this team, right? Like even since Derrick's been here, it's been a championship run. It's been game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. It's been another championship run. And then we're going to throw in the Olympics for 3 of your 6 main rotation guys in there as well. So I'm open to it. I don't know. I think I might stick with this lineup a little bit more, even though I think there is growing frustration with as to why that particular lineup can't get back to. Because I think at the end of the day, Greg, and we've talked about this a lot with different iterations of this team, who closes is not the same as who starts. Like that's where I think this conversation gets lost. When people like, I demand that this group starts. Like it's the closing doesn't have to be the same, right? The game can dictate, the matchups can dictate who's that starting 5 or who's that closing 5, I should say. So I think I'm open to it. I don't know that I would change it just yet, but I'm certainly getting very close to that area of, I think some type of change needs to happen, because this team is only fixing things internally. There's no external moves that are really coming that are going to make a major difference. So any changes would be internal. What are your thoughts on that, Richard?
Kind of on the other side. The thing that made the Celtics good last year was the Celtics were who the Celtics were, and everybody else changed. If you change, you lose. I mean, last night, Cleveland and Oklahoma City, everybody thought Cleveland would kill them because they were big or whatever. So Oklahoma City just doubled down with 5 out. They double teamed. They had hands all over the place, and they took that out. To have Oklahoma City go, oh my God, we're playing Cleveland, and to start number 15, he made a couple of threes, and Jay Will, just to combat Cleveland, they would have got run off the floor. You gotta be who you are. You can't change to do whatever. I mean, to me, I look at the Celtics always have at least two bigs. I mean, because everybody has a perception. I mean, Jason Tatum is 6'10".
Yeah.
I mean, so I mean, what? I mean, Allen and Mobley are what, 7'6", 6'11". So where they're double big. I mean it's all, you know, fan base, the way we look at things, and we want this person to do this, we want this person to do that. You know, just, you know, scrap that. You want to win. Um, if you adjust the Celtics to do whatever, Cleveland has those two bigs, but they do whatever they do. I mean that they, you know, kind of like the Brown and Tatum thing. Oh, that'll never work. I mean, that'll never work because fans who are supposedly smart say that'll never work. And most of the time, you know, like Richard Dreyfuss says, let it ride. They're wrong. Cross that off. The Jays will never win. Cross that off. Cleveland can't win with double bigs. Cross that off. Oklahoma City can't win because they're too small. Cross that off. I mean, you have to be true to who you are. So we have two bigs with either Porzingis and Tatum, Horford and Tatum. But if you take and you go and you put someone like, you know, you go Cornette and Horford, now you've changed your ability to play make, and teams can scheme around that because they now know Tatum is you know, with Horford and Cornette, they know they can scheme around that. Tatum is now out there with those two. Well, where are they going to play make? Because you're not going to get playmaking from the bigs. They do their role very, very, very well, but you've now taken at least a couple of playmakers off the floor. The thing that made the Celtics good and the way we were winning last year was we had a mismatch nightmare in Porzingis and four people who could create. You know, this year with the way teams are defending, they've gotten away from their creations. Holiday's assists are down. I mean, Derrick and Drew would have, you know, 10 to 12 assists per game. In this slump, they're not getting that. So that, you know, the team's not shooting well. So maybe that causes some assists to go down. But the flow of the offense, those guys were involved in the middle and they were making passes. They, you know, now it seems like those guys are more shooters, and that's not, you know, they can make shots, but if they're being driven to be the focal point of shooting, it's not the same as it was last year. So they just have to figure out how teams are playing them and how to get better at getting the same shots that they had last year. The, you know, shot profiles, you're just looking at whatever. I mean, last year you could count on, you know, 6 or 7 times Sam Hauser would get a wide open three, and his percentages of those wide open threes are extremely high. Mm-hmm. Now he's not, you know, he's getting run off the line. He's coming off screens, you know, looking to shoot, as opposed to, you know, he was presented with layups. So once they figure out, you know, how to get that back, I think they'll be quite fine.
Yeah, I like that answer about kind of sticking true to who you are, and that's where, to, you know, your question, I was like, I think a change at some point might be needed, but I'm reluctant to make that move just yet. I think that's when you get closer to it. It feels a little bit more desperate when you get to that point, and so we'll still see where this kind of goes from there. But, you know, Richard, you brought up that Cleveland OKC game last night. I think their first matchup was one of the games of the year. Last night, not exactly the same thing. OKC really took it to Cleveland. But I am curious to get your thoughts. And I mentioned before, we're recording this on Friday morning. The Celtics are playing the Magic tonight. I think the Magic especially given all of their injuries, have been one of the most impressive teams throughout the season. To have two of your stars go down, and then your third guy, Jalen Suggs, who's in that, Derrick White, Marcus Smart, Drew Holiday type mold. He's your third guy who was stepping up and playing phenomenal. He goes down. They get Paolo back, and they still keep finding a way. They're the 5th seed in the East. They're 4 games above 500. I know that this is a young team that's up and coming, but I'm curious, just looking around the league, and take this wherever you want to, Richard. I know that you're watching basketball all the time, not just the Celtics. So who are some teams that have really stood out to you this year and impressed you?
Like you said, you got to start with Cleveland and Oklahoma City. They both, Oklahoma City, they stayed true to themselves. Hartenstein gave them a big lift, especially without Chet. You got to look at Cleveland, the way that they're playing. Orlando is good. From a Celtics perspective, Orlando is a matchup that, for whatever reason, that's not necessarily, the playoffs are going to basically come down to matchups. So Boston and Cleveland are 1-1. So we don't know which way, 6-1, half dozen of the other. And that could go either way. The Celtics, the way the Knicks play, I think that's conducive for the Celtics to be in an advantageous position. They swept Milwaukee. Indiana, they won last year in the finals, but every game was a dogfight. So Indiana, Orlando, and the team we're going to see tomorrow, Atlanta. Those are the ones that are kind of on the board, because you don't have to be the best in the East. You just have to be the best in the 3 matchups that you have in the East. So as it currently looks like, Cleveland's 1, we're 2. Atlanta's down at the bottom, but they're close. So if Atlanta were to be like a 9th seed going into the playoffs, I could see them winning. Then they would end up getting the 8th seed, because the 9th seed, the best you can do is get the 8th seed. So that would put them against Cleveland. So Cleveland, a third of their losses are who? Atlanta. So that's, it doesn't matter how well Cleveland plays. If Cleveland doesn't do well against Atlanta, that's an issue. And then you've got, so let's see who's coming in for, probably Orlando. So Orlando would then play Cleveland. So the Celtic road would be, somebody who's 7. I think
Miami.
Huh?
Yeah,
maybe Miami.
Miami, Indiana, somewhere in that range.
Yeah. So Miami would be a better one than, as opposed to Indiana. Mm-hmm. So if we avoid Indiana, we play Miami. Okay, with history or whatever, take your chances. Then you either get the Knicks or
Milwaukee, maybe.
Or Milwaukee. So those are on paper, those are matchups that are conducive to the Celtics. Cleveland has to play Atlanta. They lose there, then that opens up a whole new different thing. So it's still a long way to go, but we don't even know where Philadelphia is. But the best Philadelphia can do is 8.
No one knows where Philadelphia is, Richard.
I was going to say
looking.
The one team we haven't mentioned is Philadelphia. But Richard, I like what you're saying about just like matchups and the whole idea of styles making fights, and that's kind of like why I was just theorizing like maybe the Celtics could be too small, right? And maybe they need to find some ways to get a little bit more size in the court. You also mentioned earlier that teams have made some adjustments to guarding Derrick and putting bigger wings on him. One thing that I noticed early on in the season is like the way Derrick was getting a lot of his open shots. I thought he was doing such a good job of reading switch pockets, right? And his ability to shoot the 3 either as a ball handler or coming off of a wide pin down in that switch pocket, and that moment hesitation where they don't know if they're going to switch, if they're going to stay low, what are they going to hedge, what are they going to do? Derrick was so good at figuring out when he had the space to get that 3-point shot off, especially from the wing. And it seems like teams are now realizing that's something that Derrick has been hunting, right? He's been hunting the switch pocket. They're trying to take that away a little bit more from him. And that's like game planning watching, teams making adjustments, especially in the playoffs, that those easy shots are going to go away. And then you think back to last year in Derrick's pet play, they ran that horns flare for him, right? Where he was coming off that flare screen to get that three. Teams are now game planning for that, right? To take that away from him. So what are you seeing from Derrick as he works through teams, especially bigger teams with size that they're putting on him? Where are you seeing him like look for new opportunities to get to his spots? Are you noticing him working on anything to find new spots to get shots off?
I mean, that's probably what is leading to that they're not playing well, because there's different things off of those. So, like you said, the horns flare. If they overplay the horns flare, then that opens up the backdoor cut, which gets them in the lane, gets a floater. So, just looking at from a Derrick perspective, his shot profile has changed from when the 16-3 to the now. It's been multiple games since Derrick's gotten in the lane and shot a floater. The wide pin down, he hasn't gotten any of those. I mean, there was a stat or whatever, and he's like he was the best shooter from 26 feet, which is the wide pin down one, which is the above the break three, or the horns flare. So all of a sudden now those shots aren't available. So you have to get better to the scheme to get them in the advantageous positions, where things work. Another thing that has changed, because when they've put a bigger people on him, is he's not in the dunker spot as much. I mean, Drew is now more in the dunker spot because he brings the smaller guy too. If Derrick's in the dunker spot, and like the Pelicans did, they had Trey Murphy the third. He's like 6'7", 6'8". So when the Jays go driving down the lane, they instead of shooting over CJ McCollum or Jose Alvarado, they got to deal with Trey Murphy, who's an exceptional athlete who's long. So you have to figure out ways to maneuver so so you can get that off. So I don't know if that's pre-screens to get Derrick, make them switch off of that, and then go into your regular offense. That would be a way to get going, then, because they have to get back to that. They have to get back to where Derrick or Drew would screen for Tatum, and then they would do the short roll. I mean, lately the only person that's getting the short roll is Luke Cornett, and Luke's made some good decisions on there, but Luke's not on from a passing and decision making spot. He's not as good as Derrick and Drew. So that's the only thing I kind of look at, is the offense has changed, and to expect them to still be as efficient as they were previously, it all goes back to your offensive strategy. Having the big person there. Now Tatum and Brown, excuse me, are seeing more crowds driving into the lane, and that's resulting in turnovers, where before they were spread wide out there, and when those guys decided to drive, they would they would have lanes and avenues that they could go to. So it's all new. I mean, it's like you said, they had the first 19, and now the next 22. You've seen this, and now it's up to the coaches to figure out how to go. And like Joe says, if the offense is running well, then the defense picks up. It's not so much, but if you're missing shots, then you're in transition. You have mismatches. They get early offense. I mean, teams do well when they're in transition. I mean, the Celtics are extremely explosive when they're in transition. They get stops, they get rebounds. Jalen gets out in the open space, and he's a nightmare. You can't stop him when he goes there. So, and then they start to feel good. The assist numbers go up, and then that's how they get back to Celtic winning basketball.
Yeah. And one last thing I want to ask you here before then I want to kind of get into some fun stuff here about
Mhm.
brewing beer and celebrating in the
Mhm.
Olympic Village and doing parades. I want to get to that here because that's gonna be some fun talk that I want to make sure that we end on. But one thing that did really stand out to me in the loss on Wednesday against the Raptors was it was the first time I feel like I really Derek is usually very even keeled. You could see the visible frustration on some of these shots that you can tell either they felt good and they just weren't going in. And Joe adjusted his substitution pattern. Pritchard came in, I think, at about 8:18 in the first quarter after Derek missed a couple of shots. So I'm curious on a couple fronts. One, what are you thinking when you're watching that, and you can just see, just as a father, just the frustration, and Derek's like, I can hit these damn shots. I know either it's just one of those nights. We've all had them when you played this game, and so I'm curious what you're thinking, and then if what you are saying or what your conversations with Derek look like, if they have anything to do with basketball, or if you guys just keep it separate.
Oh, you usually keep it separate. The main thing is, it's as as a father, it's just extremely rewarding, and it's a proud moment just to watch him play. So it's like, it's a game day. Hey, I get to watch my son playing in the NBA. Um, there's nothing better to do that. So I mean, you want him to make every shot, but the main thing is that he's healthy, he's out there, he's playing, and so we go from an enjoyment point. The things are, I mean, I don't overlook, can't see the film and stuff. Is if the shots in the form are good, sometimes it doesn't go. I mean, basketball is a pretty unforgiving thing because you think but you don't. I mean,
Yeah.
Steph Curry had a wide open three and he misses it, and then like in the Olympics, then he's like throwing up shots over Wemby and stuff like that have no business going in, and they do. So
Right.
you have to try to stay upbeat and not let the stuff get stuff get to you. So hopefully things are, he's due for a bounce back. But if the shots are there, you have to continue to keep shooting them. I mean, everybody continues to keep shooting them. You can't shy away or whatever, because then it makes it a lot easier for the defense. You just have to trust your form, trust the work that you put in, and then you live with the results.
And speaking of the work that Derek puts in, one thing I'm curious about, just as you were talking there, does Derek have like a personal shooting coach that he goes to? Like, what are his off-season workouts like? Because he's not someone that's like out there on social media posting highlight reels of his workouts in the summertime. What are his like personal training workouts like?
Yeah, I mean, he's works with Marcus Mason from Nothing But Net. He's not as well known as some of the other well-known trainers who post on different social media things. The thing with Marcus is they've worked on things. I mean, he struggled a little bit from three after the Golden State Finals, and they got in the gym and they worked on getting his release quicker, not fading, going straight up and down, catching and shooting, all those different things like the wide pin down. I mean, I've seen
Hmm.
work countless hours on that particular thing. Oh, we're going to get this shot here. Was it last year? Sam came down and they worked on that pick and roll thing. So it's like that's what he said. This is what we're going to be going to, and you need to be proficient at it. And like you said, when he comes off that above the break three off the screen and they give him any bit of space, he's just going to rise up and knock it down. So I mean, yeah, I mean, Marcus has been there since seventh grade, and
Wow.
so he, with trainers, you got to find someone that can speak to your child, and it's a way, because you don't want daddy coach or whatever, because after a while, you have a different person. So now my role is, I rebound and I just tell him that I'm proud of him, and I wish him all the best. Uh, and Marcus handles all the other stuff. Working on his form, working on his mental outlook and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you won't ever see Marcus is putting out videos or whatever, because Marcus goes, I'm not giving them the answers to the test. So
I like that. I like that. We've got our guy Cool Genuine Phil here in the chat. I can see a ballin' baldy 20-point game tonight. So I don't know if that's gonna be a nickname that takes off. I don't know. I've never heard that, the ballin' baldy, but I do like that as a fellow baldy. I do appreciate the love that we're getting there. But Richard, let's talk a little bit about your offseason experience here, being the father of a champion, of a gold medalist. With that come a lot of perks, man. You guys have had a hell of an offseason here, between the parade, then going to Paris. I'm curious to know, for you, when you look back, and I'm sure, as you get more and more time, there's going to be a very specific thing that maybe stands out. But, as it stands today, when you look back at this offseason, is there a particular moment that you really gravitate to that really, impacted you, or was something that was memorable for you?
I mean, the whole experience was kind of surreal, just to see the joy and excitement on Derrick's face. And my wife and I got a chance to go you know to Paris. And I mean, that was we were always looking to try to go and do something in Europe and stuff like that. And most of the time we're just like doing different things with our kids' sports. So we would go Disney World.
Well, it's great when the sports take you there.
Yeah, there. So in this one, sports took us there. So that was pretty exciting. It was, I don't know, maybe it was the thing that the one moment that was like incredible, and was the block on PJ Washington in game two. It many times you've heard like highlights or whatever, and you hear Mike Breen, oh, blocked by James, and it's just surreal that my son has a LeBron James finals blocked from Mike Breen. I mean,
Right.
that's it doesn't get any better than that. I mean, so you're just happy for the moment, and watching him have fun, and watching him celebrate. And that was cool.
And then Derrick obviously gets the Derrick White ale with Sam Adams. Can you have well, first of all, have you tried it? I'm sure you have.
No, oh no, we have it, but we were like, it's like a memorabilia thing. So because like we got there's like a beer from the championship post game, so we have that, and we have the Derrick White ale. We've not tasted it yet, because that's a memento piece. So I'm sure we'll get another one when we get to Boston. There'll be some more there.
What's it like for you to see Derrick like become this? I guess he is a celebrity, not even a pseudo celebrity, a celebrity in Boston.
I mean, he's a spokesperson for one of the biggest beers in America, for Sam Adams.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's very good how he's been embraced by there. He loves it in Boston. Um, he wants to stay there. He wants to continue to bring winning to the Celtics. And so he's doing good in that aspect. So it's kind of weird doing all this, like sponsorship and face of the town and stuff. But now we got to get back to winning.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And one last question I had for you, Richard, and we really appreciate your time this morning. So the pocket full of threes celebration, do you know like the origin of that?
No, it was completely, yeah, don't know where that came from.
Can you ask Derrick? Because I really like, my theory on it is that it's because he was hunting the switch pocket and that's where he was shooting the threes. He was hitting all of his 3-pointers like in the switch pocket. I haven't heard anybody theorize that, but I'm gonna need you to ask Derrick that, because I feel like I'm right, but I might not be on this one.
Oh, okay. We'll see if we can get an answer to that.
Well, Richard, we appreciate you joining us here, man. We know you've been on with us a couple times before, so we appreciate you getting up this morning, having some coffee and C's with us here today, and for all of you that joined us here in the chat. Richard, thanks for being here, man.
All right, no problem. You guys have a great day.
You too.
Awesome, guys.
Get back to winning.
Get back to winning. Celtics play the Magic tonight if you listen to this here on a Friday, and then they have a back-to-back on Saturday against the Hawks. That is going to do it for this episode here of Friday Coffee and C's. Quick announcement real quick from the Green with Envy folks here. You know that we were looking for a video intern. Shout out to our guy, Alex Gonzalez. The pride of Virginia Tech is now going to be rocking with us here going forward as our video intern. So we will have some more social content coming your way. We'll have Alex on the pod introduce himself at a later date here. But for today, everybody, be good, be safe, go enjoy your weekend. Let's get some good Celtics basketball. And don't forget, MLK Day on Monday, Celtics and Warriors, kind of a daytime-ish matinee. I believe that game's at about 4 p.m. So go enjoy your long weekend, folks, and we'll have some more content for you later in the day. Greg, any final thoughts before I click us out of here?
No final thoughts. Thanks again, Richard.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Greg.